The Handbook of Established Righteousness. Section 1. The Concept and Practice of Righteousness. Today we're going to be learning about the name of God. Let's begin. I have always been respectful of whatever name for God people who love Him want to call Him in any language or culture. For many, the name of God is a topic filled with strong opinions, even to the point of being a test of salvation. This severity is largely a result of the influence the occult has had on religion. In the Hebrew culture, the meaning of a name is what is important, not the actual articulation of the word. The occult promotes the belief in magic words, and that idea has impacted the name of God. This has been true to the extent that for some periods of time, people were not allowed to speak or even write the name of God. And people have even been killed for saying the name of God. But with a little study, you can find that all through the Bible, names were given and recorded specifically for what they meant in relation to defining the character of the person so named. So, a name in the Hebrew culture often prophesies or defines the true character that God has intended a person to be. The Hebrew record is utterly filled with examples. I will list a couple. The mother of Noah was named Botan, number 992, from number 990, which means a pistachio nut, or the sacred womb. She was considered to have a sacred womb because she was the mother of Noah, who was a very holy man. And a pistachio nut is defined as holding a treasure inside. The name Botan is found as being the name of the mother of Noah in Jubilees, chapter 4, verse 28. Charlesworth, page 63, volume 2. There are so many examples, it is hard to know which ones to cite. Just look up the meaning of Hebrew names in the Bible and you will see. There are many names for God in the Bible. All of them I view as legitimate. God is called El, Elohim, Yahweh, Jehovah, Yah, Lion of Judah, Emmanuel, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, and others. But what does God Himself use as His name? When Moses was speaking to God on Sinai, he asked God what His name was. Wasn't that remarkable? Moses did not know the Hebrew name for God. See Exodus chapter 3, verse 13 through 14, and in Exodus chapter 7, verse 5, God said that He was known to them as Jehovah or Yahweh, but still has not said that He calls Himself anything except I am. See John chapter 8, verse 58. By the way, according to the Exodus reading, the name Moses means to be drawn out of water. This meaning indicates his being taken out of the river by Pharaoh's daughter, and it was a spiritual meaning that Moses was raised up and came out of the living water to walk with God. The name Moses describes who he is and defines his spiritual character. So this makes it all the more important to recognize that the Bible account says that God did not tell Moses what he calls himself in any kind of a personal way that gave any meaning to his character or how he views himself. I exist is very impersonal. What if, when being introduced and asked your name, you said, I exist? One word for I am is number 595 in Strong's Anoki. But I am, what would answer the question of who he sees himself to be? God is loving kindness. He is Anokasi. I am loving kindness. In the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 17, it says, "He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches. To him that overcomes will I give to eat of the hidden manna," referring to the light from the Urim, "and will give him a white stone, and in the stone a new name written, which no man knows, saving he that receives it." This is a reference to a new name for God in the last days. Importantly, it is what God calls himself, and it clearly describes his character and purpose. And again in Revelation chapter 3, verse 12, "Him that overcomes will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out, and I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God, and I will write upon him my new name." This clearly indicates that God will get a new name in the last days. So now, let me tell you a very real story. In 1988, during the summer, I had a dream. In the dream, I saw a very large snow-white rock laying upon a hillside, with a large tree broken off and forming a perfect cross lying beside it. When I awoke, I knew the dream was from God, but I had no idea what it could mean. I was at that time building my house in community. It is a stone house with a thatched roof. That morning, I went to our local stone quarry to get stones. When I arrived there, in the place where I had come to collect rocks, there was on the hillside the very large snow-white stone with the cross shaped by a tree lying beside it. It was instantly recognizable from my dream, so I went back out to see the man who was in charge of the quarry. The Spirit was telling me I must have this stone. I did not know if this man was one who believed in God or not, but I just told him about the stone and that I had a dream the night before where I saw it, and that the Spirit of the Lord was urging me to try to obtain it. The quarry keeper knew about the white stone, but he had not noticed the cross lying beside it. They were the only two things on the bare hillside. The rock was just recently dug up. So we got into his pickup truck and we went out, and he saw the stone and he said, "Well, I'll be. There is a cross. I hadn't noticed that before." He said he wanted $100 for it, but I would have to get it that day because the crushing crew was coming and the rock had to be removed. I had no money. I returned home to see if there was anything I could do to get the money. As I was going through the gate, a lady of the community was opening her mail at the mailbox. And as I went by, she didn't say anything, but she just held out her hand with a $100 check in it that someone had contributed to the community. I immediately harnessed up a team of horses and my oldest son, and I went out the 6 miles to the quarry to pick up the white stone. It was weighed, and it was 2,650 pounds. It was so heavy for our team of horses that we had to come home by the river road to avoid the hills. The stone was chipped in one place by the loader at the quarry. It was a nice bright gold color inside. It was many years later before I thought to connect it to Revelations chapter 2, verse 17, or chapter 3, verse 12. The Spirit of life in gold is for us to live with the Father. Gold has several words to describe it in Hebrew. Strong's number 1222, Betsar, from number 1220, from number 1219, to gather grapes, which feel forgiveness, and number 2091, Zab or Ziab, gold colored like a sunset or sunrise, and number 3800 from number 3799 to inscribe on stone tablets which is a reference to the inspired writings of God, and number 5458 from 5462, to surrender, to enclose the heart, which comes close to the definition. None of these words actually define gold as meaning living with the Father, but they each point to it. The Lord has simply told me that it is what it feels. I think that gold used for money has had a negative influence. When gold is used for money, it is a decadarchy. But when it is not used as money, it is used to designate walking with God, like in streets of gold in heaven. So here is a white stone, number 5586, in the Greek, Saphos, a verdict of innocence, a voice of acquittal. The stone speaks. Remember Revelations chapter 2, verse 17. It said, "To he who overcomes, I will give a white stone, and in the stone a new name for God, and only he who receives the stone will know the name, and I will write upon him my new name." That statement is pointed at everyone who receives his name and overcomes. So this is the name. Anokasi, I am loving kindness. Anoki, I am chest, loving kindness. Ki and chi were pronounced the same in the ancient times, so the last syllable of Anoki blends with the first syllable of chest to form Anokasi. I am loving kindness. I am of the opinion that the chest was dropped after Sinai because the Hebrews wanted a God whose character would allow him to be seen as one who would destroy their enemies. Loving kindness simply would not fit. But John said God is love, and the Lord's brother, Apostle James, said both good and bad cannot come from the same mouth. James chapter 3, verse 10 through 11. So he cannot be both love and one who slays people. So now, in these tribulation times, we can know the name that God calls himself, and more importantly, we can know from his name his true character and the only relationship he has with man as our loving Father who knows us so intimately that he knows how many hairs are on our head and what we need before we ask him. And this wonderful blessing of kindness is for everyone who is diligent to stand pure before him. And while we accept all holy names for God, it is comforting to call him what he calls himself. Now, I would add a little information for you to consider on this topic. I know there are differing opinions on the character of God and his name, often expressed with a high degree of passion and opinion. Let me start by saying I respect whatever anyone calls God in their culture, assuming they love him and desire to be led by his spirit in their daily walk. This information, in my view, should be a treasure for those of us who are so often rejected, looked down upon, and persecuted because we do not fit the accepted mold and are so often numbered among the poor. God in the scriptures and traditions is almost universally portrayed as being wrathful, angry, and vengeful. And this portrayal of his personality is without limit in its severity. Consider this. You all know Saul had the kingdom taken away from him and given to David. But have you ever grasped the reason why? Go and read it in 1 Samuel chapter 15. The kingdom was taken away from Saul because he did not kill all the women and children. In chapter 15, verse 22 through 23, his sparing some of the animals and the women and children is likened unto witchcraft. Furthermore, all this killing is commanded by God, and the numbers to be slain reach the hundreds of thousands. If that is not as hard and cruel as God can get, then perhaps go and read Numbers chapter 31. It is even more graphic and violent. Does anybody put a limit to what they will believe about God's personality? There is a reason why all this has come down to us this way. The translators have perpetrated this idea when they have supported historic political needs. In other words, throughout history, government leaders have needed to portray God in these terms to aid them in holding on to power and maintaining dominance over people. Here is a part of how they did it. The Hebrew word af, number 639, is translated anger 173 times in the King James Version Bible, but the word literally means your nose or face. By extension, it means to express passion, but passion does not have to be anger. Strong's Bible Dictionary lists the words ire, anger, and wrath in the definition for af because it has been translated that way for so long. Yet, af could just as legitimately translated as forbearing or suffering. There are other words in Hebrew that really mean anger. Number 2195 means to froth at the mouth or fury. Number 2534, Shema, means hot displeasure. Biblical authors could have used those words to unambiguously mean anger, if that is what they wanted to say. A real good example of just how twisted the translations can be is found in Revelations chapter 19, verse 15. In that reading, the word fierceness is G number 2312, divinely instructed in depths. And the word wrath is G number 3709, desires. Just hold a baby lamb and try to imagine fierce wrath within it. The translation for the word wrath is also fraught with problems. There is another dynamic that comes into play other than simply translation games. Ancient people, even some of the prophets, attributed natural disasters as acts of God's wrath or anger. This is not true, but are, in fact, the acts of the Urkadeshi as they grieve over sin. Finally, there is just plain common sense. We all know Christ was just like his Father, and he would only say what his Father would say and do what he would do, right? And Jesus said he would love our enemies. Does God get to hate his enemies? We have to forgive 70 times 7. But God says, vengeance is mine. Jesus taught we should pray for those who despitefully use us, but God gets to command their utter annihilation and genocide? Surely not. James says a mouth cannot both bless and curse. James chapter 3, verse 10 through 11. God has waited a long time for his people to think of him being what he really is, loving kindness. And it is of consequence that the righteous learn of the name he calls himself in this time of tribulation when so much evil is being done in his name. Surely his righteous children know they have a loving Father in heaven who will not kill them for some infraction. What if our earthly fathers did that and had your playmates killed because he did not like them or because they were the wrong ethnicity? I can't imagine anything deeper in the abyss of hell worse than that. While people are doing just that during tribulation times, we need to know our wonderful Father in heaven who says, I am loving kindness. Going back to the example of you being introduced to someone and all they would say when you asked them their name was, I exist. That is just so impersonal. And on top of that, your central need is to love them with all your heart, might, mind, and strength. Moses already knew God existed, or else he would not have been asking him what his name was. This account has always been a very clever way to distance man from God and prevent the keeping of the first commandment. This concludes our reading on the name of God in the Handbook of Established Righteousness. Thank you for listening. Shalom.